fascinating history. 300 years ago, London draper Edward Rigby acquired the Mistley estates by Act of Parliament and built a village called Mistley Thorne. His son inherited everything in 1732, considerably increased his fortunes, and made extravagant plans to develop the village as a spa. This circular basin with its swan fountain was the only idea to materialise. Rigby had embezzled huge sums of money, was relieved of his high public office in 1782 and died 6 years later. The family seat, Mistley Hall, which had grown from a modest two-wing house to an impressive mansion, was sold in 1835 owing to the burden of accumulated debts and pulled down in 1840. And the Adam Church was demolished 70 years after Rigby's costly embellishments, except for its twin towers, which fortunately have served well as excellent landmarks to shipping. Mistley Green's cottages were built by Rigby's descendants to house their retired estate workers, more thoughtful than his old spa scheme. Unhappily, in the late 17th century, the local community were terrorised by one Matthew Hopkins, the notorious witch-finder general. His victims were unceremoniously hanged on the green. Welcome to Schiddinchav. While swanning round the walls, a bit of history about Mistley's tiny but apparently more important neighbour, Schiddinchav. Yes, that's the name recorded in Doomsday. Historians claim that as long ago as 55 BC, the Mani tribe sent gifts and hostages to Caesar's camp near the River Thames. Throughout the Middle Ages, it was a prosperous market town with a river trade on the Stour, then navigable as far as Sudbury. Its annual fair was known far and wide, at which one of the customs was to roast a whole ox stuffed with batter pudding. Fact or fiction? Well, Shakespeare's Henry IV refers to Falstaff as that roasted Manningtree ox, and the original access to Mistley maltings is still known locally as Batter Pudding Hill. Well, in Tudor times, Manningtree, to give it its post-1086 title, was a flourishing place, till trouble struck in 1616 when the parish church burnt down. The townspeople petitioned for a permit to rebuild it, complaining, "The men are compelled to repair to the parish church of Mistley, 2 miles distant, and leave their town open and subject to any spoil and invasion by seafaring men and pirates." The permit was granted. Well, Manningtree, all 22 acres of it, enjoys a unique importance out of all proportion to its size. It has a mainline railway station built in Lawford on an embankment made from soil carted from Mistley, but it's called Manningtree, and its modern post office is the largest in the area, and yet it retains its individual character. Come and see. Almost opposite Newell's photography shop in the right foreground of this picture of Wherry Corner once stood the Wherry Inn. Both were undoubtedly named after the sailing barge or lighter. The horse and cart in the background delivered fresh milk twice daily from Dale Farm, Lawford. But not anymore. The farm is now a housing estate. Newell's shop has closed, but his postcards provide a permanent record of the town's unique history. The corner has long been a popular meeting place. Must have been the lure of the river. If not then, it certainly is today. Just look at all the boats and all the activity around. Walking up Wherry Corner and turning right into High Street, looking west This picture was taken around about 1914. The 1616 rebuilt parish church, left centre of picture, complete with square tower and, rather unusually, a clock fixed to the eaves where it could be seen better from the street. Were the men still compelled to repair to church? Well, attendances were already dwindling, and by 1966 it had to close and was demolished. Today's only reminder, a fragment of buttress, and on the reverse a commemorative plaque. On the immediate left is part of the Packet Inn, looking back down the east end of the High Street. The ivy-covered building in the centre was the vicarage, but now much altered as the annex of the Crown Hotel. The Packet Hotel, it was sometimes referred to as the Packet Inn, unfortunately, here decorated for Edward VII's coronation in 1901, was once an old coaching inn supplying changes of horses, and it also had access to the quay. It closed in 1914, and it's now Townsend's Toys, Books and Stationer's shop. And facing Townsend's, a worthy charity shop next door to, what's this, Worldly Goods Ethnic Craft Shop? Adjoining that, a shop which perhaps holds the record for changes of ownership. It was Spooner's family grocer and provision merchant in 1910, and for a good many years. Then it became International Stores in the 20s and 30s, then the Village Store until comparatively recently, and now Dillon's newsagent, grocers and off-licence. One could say the High Street East is well catered for, with 2 cafes and the Crown Hotel at the far end. A rather nice touch between the tea room and the hotel, the simple, lovingly cared for war memorial, with beautiful floral displays, locally sponsored and looked after. Now here is the Market Cross, halfway down the High Street, which is divided by South Street. The junction is known as the Market Cross. Looking up South Street, Felgett's old cycle store has closed, while Dennis's tailor and hattler business has changed hands many times. It became the Co-op Gents Outfitters, then a pet shop, then a florist's, and now it's a branch of R. Gwinnell and Sons, funeral directors. Looking now west up the rest of High Street is the King's Head on the right-hand corner, which has changed appreciably after its demolition in the 70s. The cross is now pleasantly upmarket with High Street Delicatessen and the Manningtree Cellar. Modern version of the old inn? Could be. Now looking round back towards the east, but still in Market Cross, this building, plumb in the centre of Market Cross, used to be the fire station, probably in the 30s at a guess. It was previously in Key Street and has since returned there. The retained fire service had 15 volunteers in the 1940s. I don't think the van behind them was a green goddess, but it was an old one anyhow. The 1997 crew are ready for action. If we'd asked them to lay this on specially, nobody would have believed us, so we didn't. High Street, west of the Cross, 1910. The building on the left had been the Corn Exchange until 1875 and was subsequently used as a public hall. Afterwards it became in turn a furniture store, a dance hall, a Catholic church, and now a branch of the Colchester Public Library. Next to it were the old post office, the front premises of Alston's Brewery, and Barclays Bank, here seen with the cab outside. Today the only original frontage is the fine library building. The remainder have altered almost beyond recognition. The large post office, built in 1936, replaced the old one and the adjoining brewery building, and Barclays has had a facelift. On the opposite side, the White Hart Hotel is still open for business, In pre-war days, the AA sign of recommendation was proudly displayed. Bakery, where one could buy home-baked bread fresh from the oven. Lovely.